live.
Good afternoon. This is the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners for Tuesday, October 9, 2018. I'm Commissioner Bud Blake, Chair of the Board this year. I'd like to start off by doing a few introductions. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. To my right is Commissioner John Hutchings. To his right is Labanita Bomar, Clerk of the Board. And to her right is Romero Chavez, the County Manager. With that in mind, I'll ask Commissioner Hutchings to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you please rise and join me in the pledge to our flag and our country. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Fantastic. And thank you, sir, and everybody. So with that in mind, I'll ask if there's a motion to approve today's agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve today's agenda, October 9, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the Tuesday, October 9, 2018 agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. And is there a motion to approve the board meeting minutes for the 2nd of October?
I move to approve board meeting minutes, October 2, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the board meeting minutes for October 2nd, 2018. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries as well. Well, we have a fantastic lineup today as far as some presentations in terms of what a lot of people are doing out there in the community, conflict resolution, cybersecurity, and domestic violence. So with that in mind, I'll just go with the first one. We have the Proclamation for Civility and Conflict Resolution, and this is the month thereof. So we have Jody Schreiber here today she's the Executive Director of Dispute Resolution Center, which is a phenomenal organization. I'll let her brag about it and tell us a little bit about what's going on there, and then open to some questions and comments.
Okay.
Hello,
sounds
Jody.
Good. Thank you, Commissioner Blake, and greetings, Commissioner Edwards and Commissioner Hutchings, and everyone here. Does it sound like you can hear me okay? Okay.
Now we can.
Now you can. So my name is Jody Serbier, and I am the Executive Director for the Dispute Resolution Center of Thurston County. As you may know, our center is really positioned to provide conflict resolution, prevention, and youth services in our area, and we base those services on the values of civility and respect. We truly appreciate that you share those values and that you choose to acknowledge that or to proclaim that October is Conflict Resolution Month. And with that, I just want to express our appreciation and take any questions you might have for me.
Cool. Yeah,
I just want to thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, when I was with the City of Olympia, we used conflict or DRC quite often. Not that they're always in conflict, but there's always a need for the DRC. Even though this is Recognition Month, we don't resolve all the conflicts just this month. Right?
Conflict is a normal part of everyday
Good
life.
grief,
And that
yeah.
is a
So
part
thank you
of
very, very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's a constant flow of work there at the Dispute Center, I'm sure.
There is, and really because there is opportunity for every one of us to learn how to communicate better. So that's really what our focus is, just help people learn how to communicate better, and hopefully we can both prevent and resolve conflict when it comes up.
So take an extra moment to tell us how large and the new location and some of the more innovative things that's kind of happening. Just kind of touch on some of those.
Well, thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, gladly. We did recently move into a new location. We had been in our downtown location for about 15 years, and just this last July, we moved back to the west side, our original home, where we had been the previous 15 years. So we have a larger space. It's an accessible space. And now we can provide more of our trainings on site and more of our mediations on site, and it's really just working out so well. Very happy about that.
You bet.
We have continued to have a presence in our local schools, which is one of the areas that a lot of people are not aware of because it happens within the school and you don't see it out in the public. But we're very excited that we've got a new team of Youth Empowerment Services members, and we're working in 3 different districts this fall and looking to expand in the winter to other districts. And I guess another thing that's on our horizon is that we've been working with our state legislature on some facilitation that has been a really nice avenue of service and really feeling like we're serving our community.
Sure, and the district court. Tell us a little bit about what...
Yeah, of course,
Yes,
always.
there you go.
Just committed eternally, yes.
There
Happy
you
to
go.
be of service.
Thank you so much for coming today and sharing this day of civility and conflict resolution. Like Hutch said, it's not just for today and for the month. It always goes on, but we need y'all to be there for a lot of big problems and little problems and in-between problems. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, he has another comment.
You know, I might just, for the viewing public out there, let them know how much money, and I don't know how much, but you saved the taxpayers of Thurston County a lot of money, because law and justice is obviously one of the bigger portions of the budget we deal with. And every case you settle helps us along, regardless if that's something that might have been adjudicated in court or something from the street level on up. But you do a real service towards saving the taxpayers money.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. You're right. Every time that we mediate a case out of district court for small claims, we're saving about $1,000 a case. Last time we ran the numbers on that. Superior court cases for family are tending to be around a $4,000 savings for each session. So we do hope that that translates into an alleviation of stress on the courts and also just positive supportive outcomes for clients.
And when the courts aren't stressed, we're not stressed. One question real quick before I read the proclamation, Jody, and that is, do you still have Olympia representation on the board? Because I think Deputy Chief Aaron Jelsic was for years.
You're right. Officer Jelsic was on their Assistant Chief. Jelsic was
now.
on
I
the
think
board.
he is
Yeah,
a
at the
sergeant or
time,
something.
yes. He was on the board, and it's been a while. So we're currently recruiting for new board members, and no, we don't have city representation at this time.
Okay, at least that was good free advertising right now.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, whereas federal, state, regional, and local governments have an interest in promoting civility, improved communication, and the use of mediation to settle a wide range of disputes. And whereas the state of Washington actively promotes the use of community-based dispute resolution centers by citizens through legislation and funding. And whereas this is the 29th anniversary since the Thurston County Commissioners authorized the formation and funding support of the DRC, or Dispute Resolution Center of Thurston County. And whereas over 100,000 state residents are served annually by community-based mediators to resolve conflicts between family members, neighbors, tenants, landlords, merchants, consumers, employees, employers, civic organizations, and government agencies. And whereas mediation is a uniquely effective means of settling disputes, as attested by the 87% of situations being improved as reported by participants. And whereas jurisdictions and taxpayers in the state of Washington save millions of dollars annually in district and superior court costs for cases that have been settled by community-based mediation centers rather than court hearings. And whereas conflict prevention via training for adults and youth and conflict resolution via the mediation process increases the quality of life and opportunity to experience civic harmony for all residents of the state of Washington. And whereas October is the month designated to pay special attention to conflict resolution work. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Thurston County Commissioners hereby proclaims the month of October as Civility and Conflict Resolution Month in Thurston County, and invites everyone to participate by making every day a day of productive choices. Adopted this 9th day of October, 2018.
Thank you.
We gotta get a photo.
No, I want to be on this side. No, how are you going to resolve that conflict? No, you're fine. Stand right there. You're fine. You're fine.
That's like kids right there.
Nice,
Move this out of the way.
touch.
There you go.
3 more.
Stop moving.
Thank you.
It's so good to see you. I'll come see you. You bet. Let me get that burr. Fantastic. So we have 2 more proclamations, and the second one is super interesting because it deals with cybersecurity, and this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And Auditor Mary Hall is going to give us a little bit of background on some of the things she's done and just get an overall picture of what's going on, say, in the county. Hello, Mary.
Good afternoon.
Mary.
Thank you. The threat we face right now with cyber crimes is real, And there have been a lot of examples across the country. And the Department of Homeland Security has made this very evident to the elections community, really starting with the 2016 election. In 2017, the Department of Homeland Security designated election systems as one of 18 critical infrastructures in the U.S. because of the importance of securing our democracy and to leverage more resources against nation states that are really their goal is to undermine the confidence in our election system. But we take cybersecurity very seriously, and for that reason, myself, along with other leaders in the county, department heads, elected officials, we've started a cybersecurity task force. And in my office, we've been taking steps to enhance our security, like two-factor authentication. We've increased security at our ballot processing center, both physical and cyber. But I think it's important to note that election systems aren't alone as the target for cyber crimes. It's on the rise both in government and for home users. And I think Cybersecurity Month is a great time to think about our systems at home and what we can do to make ourselves more secure. You know, government is a high-profile target. There was a ransomware attack in the city of Atlanta earlier this year, and it brought the county or the city to a halt for 5 days, and they're still not up 100%. They anticipate the cost to be between $20 and $30 million by the time it's all done. There was a distributed denial of service attack on Knox County, Tennessee that closed down their website, so they weren't able to report election results at 8 o'clock on election night. So we take these seriously. Our task force is working hard because we're really only as strong as our weakest link in this county, and really our employees and citizens are the greatest protection we have against these attacks. So Cybersecurity Awareness Month is really about increasing awareness in our county, in our communities, about the threat of cybercrime and the steps we can take to protect ourselves. There's a great website called stopthinkconnect.org, and it has a wealth of resources and information of what we can all do to secure ourselves at home. And I really encourage everybody to take a look at that website. Again, it's stopthinkconnect.org. So I want to thank the county commissioners for proclaiming October as Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I think it reflects our growing commitment to address cybersecurity at Thurston County. So thank you. Any questions?
Comments, questions?
No, I don't have any questions, Mary, but I do want to compliment you and your staff. Over at your hard facility, I guess, I would like to assure citizens that are voting that, boy, their vote is protected. And if you've never seen that system over there that Mary runs, you ought to see if you can't get a tour, and you'd feel as confident as I do about the election system if you got to see all the safeguards that Mary's got in place.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. And I do encourage anyone to come down and tour our ballot processing center if you want to see what happens to your ballot after you put it in a drop box or the mail. It's an amazing process, and we really enjoy giving tours, and it's open to the public anytime we are open and processing ballots.
I've said the same thing, that I have great confidence in what you do. The process is down locked tight. But as we're talking about cybersecurity, that's a real threat. But you're addressing it and taking care of that, and I appreciate that too. And that's the fundamental core of our democracy.
Yeah,
So thank you for that.
cybercrime is definitely on the rise. Actually, it's becoming more and more prevalent, not only in government, but personal crimes as well.
And it was stopthinkconnect.org.
Stopthinkconnect.org.
Thank you.
And if you really want to see something scary, there's a website called norsecorp.com that actually will show you in real time the cyber attacks that are happening across the country.
Spell that, would you?
NORSECORP.com.
.com. Wow. No, I won't look at it. I want to sleep tonight. It'll scare me.
It will make you take it seriously. You know, we've been through
my
so much
goodness.
cybersecurity training.
This spelling sounds icky.
Yeah, I went through a 2-day cybersecurity training and went home and put in a personal VPN,
I'll
so.
let you do that. Yeah, credits to you. Thank you so much. I've been 2 or 3 times over there to the Ballot County Center, and by far the best.
No, thank
I've
you.
been there.
All right, whereas Thurston County recognizes it has a vital role in identifying, protecting its citizens from and responding to cyber threats that may have significant impact to our individual and collective security and privacy, and whereas critical infrastructure sectors are increasingly reliant on information systems and technology to support elections, financial services, law and justice, telecommunications, transportation, utilities, public health, and emergency response systems, and whereas the National Institute of Standards and Technology Cybersecurity Framework has been developed as a free resource to help organizations, large and small, both public and private, like Thurston County, improve their cybersecurity practices through a practical approach to addressing evolving threats and challenges, and whereas maintaining the security of cyberspace is a shared responsibility in which each of us has a critical role to play, and awareness of computer security essentials will improve the security of information, infrastructure, and economy. And whereas the federal government of the United States of America, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, the National Association of State Chief Information Officers, and the National Cybersecurity Alliance all recognize October as National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Citizens are encouraged to visit the website www.stopthinkconnect.org to learn more about cybersecurity and to put that knowledge into practice in their homes, schools, workplaces, and businesses. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Thurston County Commissioners hereby proclaims Thurston County will stand with the nation in recognizing October as Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and hereby commits to focusing on increasing cybersecurity awareness in Thurston County, adopted this 9th day of October, 2018. Yay.
So I also want to thank my team members. I'm wondering, can they come up
Oh,
and be in the
do that.
picture?
Yeah,
We've got
yeah.
a lot of cybersecurity task
Yes.
force members in the audience.
Introduce them.
Got Christy Peters, Toby Gavon, Diana Benson, and you come to those meetings. Thomasina Cooper is the one who gets us all there. Is there anyone else? Oh, Tawny, Katie from HR. Anybody else? So come
Well, you
on
got a
up.
big team.
Come on
Yeah.
up.
Get them all in the picture, yeah.
Let's do
Thank
it.
you.
No law enforcement? Oh, just prosecution, yeah.
Turn, you hold that and open it up. There you go. Thomasina. What's his
Good
name?
group picture.
Come on, Toby. We'll get pictures of you. Don't worry. Yeah, it's okay.
You're doing good.
There you go. There you go, Mary. Yay. You bet.
Thank you, Mary.
Congratulations. All right. Okay. Next proclamation is could be overwhelming emotional because it is a proclamation for Domestic Violence Awareness and Action Month. We have Christine Peters here from the Chief of Staff of the Prosecuting Attorneys to give some background, and we have a whole host of people that she's going to bring to the podium, I believe, and you have the floor and take it away.
I am definitely the least important person that you're going to hear from in this presentation today because we have a wealth of experts and really experienced people that work together on behalf of all people in Thurston County who are affected by domestic violence. And I say all people because, as all of you know, it's not only the victim who becomes a survivor who's affected, but also all of the members of their family and friends and workplace. We are very fortunate in Thurston County to have so many partners working on behalf of this community. As you can see in the gallery today, we have many members of my office, the Thurston County Prosecutor's Office. In just a moment, I'm going to invite up Jennifer Lord, who's the team leader of our domestic violence team, to come up and speak with you, along with some of the deputy prosecutors that she works with. I think you probably noticed Marshall, who is our facility dog, works every week with many, many victims and family members of domestic violence. We also have many members here from the Family Support Center, including the Executive Director, Trish Gregory. And in a moment, I'd also like to invite up Sarah St Clair from the Family Support Center to give you an inside view of what's happening regarding domestic violence here in our community. In addition, you see Linda Enlow, our county clerk, her deputy clerk, Tani Sharp. We work very closely with the clerk's office, and then also many members from the Thurston County Sheriff's Office. Specifically, Lieutenant Rudloff and Sergeant Carla Carter work directly with the Family Justice Center team, along with many other members of the Sheriff's Office. We can't do this alone. We have to work in partnerships. In addition, within the county, District Court, Superior Court, Juvenile Court, all work alongside all of the other departments that I've mentioned. And, you know, not to mention last, but I know that at the Board of Health, you're going to be recognizing domestic violence, but the Board of Public Health and our Public Health Department is also very involved in domestic violence. So it's an integrated system, government, nonprofit, working together on behalf of the issue of domestic violence in our community. That's all I'm going to say. At this point, I'd like to invite Sarah St. Clair and Jennifer Lord.
Hello, Sarah. Good. Come on up. Jennifer? Hi. You bet.
Let Sarah go first.
Sure. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
My name is Sarah St. Clair. I'm a case manager for the Homeless Family Services Program at the Family Support Center of South Sound. The Family Justice Center works together with the Family Support Center of South Sound and is a co-located collaborative center for survivors and families experiencing domestic violence, sexual assault, and trafficking. I'm a certified domestic violence advocate, and I'm also a survivor of domestic violence. My 3 children and I were able to escape from violence and receive advocacy from the Family Justice Center in 2015. I would like to talk to you a little bit about my story and about the complex choices that people make when they realize that there's domestic violence in their relationship and that they need to get out. For me, choosing to flee domestic violence forced me to very carefully weigh some difficult options. On the one hand, there was the relative financial stability of a 2-parent household, but with financial abuse where I had no control over my own bank account. Versus fleeing with the knowledge that one of the highest risk factors for a child to live in extreme poverty in the United States is living in a single-parent household. I was breastfeeding a child under 6 months old, and I had to weigh the knowledge that fleeing would put that breastfeeding relationship, and therefore my child's long-term health, at risk. Was the protective factor of breastfeeding going to counter the long-term negative health effects of an adverse childhood experience of living in a home where there is domestic violence? I wasn't sure. What was sure was that there was no simple, easy choice for me. Fleeing domestic violence can often mean facing homelessness for a survivor. Statistics from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's national one-night point-in-time count of homeless populations suggest that on a single night in January 2017, 16% of the overall homeless population reported having experienced domestic violence at some point. According to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, among homeless families that reported domestic violence in the 5 years prior, 88% reported that it significantly contributed to their homelessness. I'd like to talk about what we as a community can do. We can prevent domestic violence by focusing on instilling knowledge of healthy, consenting relationships in young people We can focus on building collective hope. We can focus on resilience factors for children, such as good relationships with an adult and self-esteem for children. We can mitigate the effects and damage once domestic violence occurs by collectively responding as a community in a way that believes survivors, condemns abuse, and provides opportunity for healing and growth. We can foster individual hope and help children build healthy relationships through mentorship programs and opportunities like camps. We can support and fund basic stability measures like health care, housing, access to education. Together, we can believe and support survivors, and we can work to end domestic violence. I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer Lord.
You bet.
It's pretty tough to follow that.
Yeah, it is.
I am a senior deputy prosecuting attorney with the prosecuting attorney's office. I've had the privilege of working in domestic violence prosecution for more than 10 years. I'm currently the team lead for the domestic violence prosecution team on the adult felony side. There is a district court domestic violence prosecution that occurs as well. And hopefully in the very near future, we will be joining those two teams together under the Family Support Center at the Family Justice Center, and that's a real achievement. When we're talking about domestic violence, everybody throws the phrase around, but as we've heard, it's not just a phrase, and it doesn't describe an act. It describes a relationship. And everyone in our community is affected by a domestic violence relationship. It affects health, it affects education, it affects financial well-being, and ultimately as a community, we wind up all reaping the disadvantages of the ongoing problem of domestic violence in our community. Through prosecution, it's our goal to try to achieve community safety and accountability. And under the direction of John Thunheim, we approach these crimes from the perspective of healthy families, holistic approaches. Some of the issues involved in this type of dynamic involve mental health problems. Some of the issues involve drug and alcohol abuse. Some involve it all, and some of these cases involve none of the above. And through our prosecution, we attempt to find a way to ensure that the survivors of these horrible circumstances get the support that they need through actions that we can provide. And some of the ways that we look at providing those things is through the use of mental health court, veterans court, things of that nature, to try to ensure we ask in most every single case that there be some sort of education, be it domestic violence education, be it mental health treatment with reports from their treatment provider. The purpose behind it is if we don't intervene at some point to try to stop this learned behavior that is taught in the home, it will just continue. And as a component of our job, that is a huge focus of what we do. I'd like to ask one of my coworkers, Beth McMullen, to come forward and advise everyone about a case in which a survivor has been able to move forward due to the actions of prosecution in this particular instance. I also want to, prior to that, point out that we work in conjunction with the Thurston County Sheriff's Department, with the Family Justice, with the Family Support Center, with the Clerk's office. And we couldn't do it if we didn't work as a team. We also have Adult Protective Services present and all the community services that come along with working with the Family Support Center. Every single player, every single component of that group serves to benefit the survivors of these cases. Beth?
Hello, Beth.
Hello, my name is Beth McMullen. I am one of the felony domestic violence prosecutors. Part of what we do on the domestic violence team is listen to survivors, listen to the needs that they have, and try to brainstorm ideas of how we can help them get to where they know they need to be. One of the ways in which we can do that is I've been working with a survivor of domestic violence since about March of last year. And recently she said to me when we were working through some of the cases that she has pending is, I just needed a minute to breathe. She just needed a minute, somebody to stand with her and give her a little bit of silence, listen to the concerns that she had, and help her figure out what she needed to do. She had been through a very traumatic experience, and she just needed a minute. And she was given that minute. And originally, when I first met her back in March of 2017, or actually June of 2017, she didn't want to participate in prosecution. It was too much. She had been through too much. It was not worth it to her. But having that moment to breathe, she now has participated in prosecution, and she talks about how she wished this had happened previously because of how far she's been able to come. Part of how we do that is to make sure that survivors of domestic violence know what resources are available to them in the community. And I'm going to defer to Lindsey Millar, who is one of the other felony prosecutors, to talk about the services that we make sure people are aware of.
My name is Lindsey Millar. I'm the
Hello, Lindsey.
third and final member of the domestic violence, felony domestic violence team. Sarah talked a little bit about the homeless population and their being involved in domestic violence situations, and Jennifer touched on our collaboration with community partners, and those two things intersect greatly. Our partnership with the Family Support Center and being housed with them allows us to reach a population that otherwise is often very difficult to reach as a prosecutor. It's one of the most difficult cases to prosecute. When you don't know where your survivor is, they probably don't know where you are, and so you don't even know how they feel about prosecution. And so one of the things that we're able to do, being in such close proximity to law enforcement partners, Safe Place, people like that, is find where these survivors are and give them the chance to come forward and have a say in what happens in the prosecution of their case, or the case against their abuser. And sometimes they don't want to participate, and that's fine, but we want to be able to give them that opportunity to speak up. And so that partnership allows us to do that. We can go to someone else in the center and say, you know what, might you know where this person is? Or I heard that they're staying at this particular place. I don't know where that is. Do you know where that is? One case in particular that I had, she was a survivor who'd been assaulted by her significant other several times with weapons in the past, various weapons over the years. And you could see on his criminal history where each case had been dismissed because she didn't want to come forward. And she finally put her foot down in this particular case last year and said, you know what, I'm done. And because we had a relationship with our community partners, with Safe Place, she was able to get housing. Her case was successfully prosecuted without having to go to trial. She got a say in what happened, and she moved on and changed her name, and her abuser doesn't know where she is anymore. So that's one example of how our partnership ends up helping community, or people in our community who might otherwise be difficult to reach.
Wow.
And I'm not sure who's next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to conclude, we're talking about domestic violence affecting our community. An example of why it is so important that we all work together as a team in our community regarding domestic violence is the State versus Gonzalez case that happened last year. The defendant in that case murdered his wife's mother, in the presence of his stepdaughter. He raped his stepdaughter. He took his stepdaughter and his child in the back of his car on a high-speed chase through Thurston County, Washington, firing at law enforcement. It was a multi-jurisdictional chase with the two children in the back seat of the car. There was a protection order in place at the time that this happened. because not 2 weeks prior, there had been a domestic violence incident at that house. Ultimately, he tried to take his own life. He was not successful. The children survived. His stepdaughter no longer has her mother or her grandmother, and she has suffered incredibly, incredibly, having seen what she's seen and experienced what she's experienced. And the youngest child, who was 3 at the time, has also suffered. And at the time of this incident, he made statements of his own accord that were unsolicited about what he had seen. And trust me, he will remember what he saw. That's the reason why we need to put domestic violence at the forefront, not the back end. And that's why we as a community have to come together and join forces to ensure that cases like that don't occur here in Thurston County ever again. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to, was it the clerk's office? Everybody's done? I'm done. Thank you.
No, I'm going to ask this. Carla or the sheriff, y'all want to come up and say something on behalf of the Thurston? And then Trish and Carla, I don't see anybody from Safe Place. Can you talk to Safe Place too for a second? Sure.
So the Thurston County Sheriff's Office has chosen to partner with our community because that's the 2 most effective ways to stop domestic violence. The community collaboration and then an accurate threat assessment, which we have done. So we collaborate we're on-site partners with the Family Justice Center. We participate in Camp Hope. We have re-explored our law enforcement protocol for domestic violence response, along with a standardized threat assessment. And then we've also sat on the address confidentiality program panel through the legislator. And we're 24-hour responsive to any advocate out there. And we're the only law enforcement agency in Thurston County that does that. So I know you guys sit in positions of power. So we're asking you to make that plug for us with other law enforcement agencies. Come to the table, collaborate with us. Let's have an effective approach together toward domestic violence.
You bet.
And I also sit as president of the board of directors for Safe Place, our local nonprofit shelter and advocacy center, sexual assault advocacy center, and that's what the sheriff's office does. We engage, we commit, we dig deep into these bigger issues, and we're here at the forefront pushing through. So thank you guys.
I'm
very much.
exceedingly proud of our DAMN Sheriff's Office and all the work that you guys are doing. Guys is all inclusive of gender.
Yeah.
And I prefer, rather than the amount of power we have, I'd rather think of it as tremendous responsibility.
Absolutely.
And
thank you.
it's huge. Yeah.
So if you could share that and plug it.
Oh, we're going to share it.
Oh yeah, give me a microphone.
Thank you.
Yeah, Trish, would you like to come up for a minute and just say something on behalf of Linda and Lowe? Can you come up and say something on the behalf of the clerk? Yes.
I almost said good morning. It's been a long day.
Oh, yeah, for you, yeah.
I would just I'll keep it really short, but you've heard from many members of our Family Justice Center team about the services provided here in Thurston County for families with children and survivors of domestic violence. And I want to say thank you to Sarah St Clair. This is the first time I've heard Sarah's story. She's one of our employees. I had no idea she had visited our Family Justice Center, but really powerful to hear the struggles and to know what a strong, capable, compassionate, an amazing advocate she's been for other families. So just want to acknowledge that and just say thank you for recognizing today the need to put domestic violence at the forefront as far as a public health issue. So thank you.
You bet. Linda. I'm not going to let you off the hook, sorry. You worked too hard for this, and it's too important, sorry.
Hi, I'm Linda Meyer-Enlow, Thurston County Clerk. I just want to thank you for allowing me and everyone else to be able to speak on this very important issue. I'm very committed to serving the citizens of Thurston County and the victims of domestic violence. I have 2 full-time domestic violence liaisons and 1 full-time victim advocate who helps people through the legal process. Last year, the clerk's office interviewed over 2,600 victims of domestic violence. This is an average of 11 interviews per day. The number of interviews our office conducts has increased about 10% over the past 15 years. Of the 1,000 cases we opened in 2017, over 800 cases were granted temporary orders, and over 600 of those cases resulted in permanent orders. As the number of victims we serve continues to grow, I'm committed to strengthening our partnerships to provide the best service possible to victims of domestic violence.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Is there anybody else who would like to come just for speak their mind? Sheriff, just something? Yeah, come on up for 30 seconds. We got 32 seconds for you. Tell what you've seen the impact.
The way Marshall over there looked at me, it kind of scared me just for a second. But he has that look sometimes.
Sleepiness.
being here and hearing the commitment that the men and women behind me have towards ending domestic violence sends a strong message about what we want to see in this community. We want to end domestic violence. And how do we do it? And the only way we get to do it is by partnerships. We can't do it by ourselves. And being able to let the victims out there know that we are there for them. We are there to help them and to make them stronger. And that our idea of domestic violence is to never have to go to domestic violence calls again. I was on that call when, I can't pronounce his last name, Gonzalez. I was there. Actually, I was there when he shot himself. And hearing the radio traffic of what was going on from the time he left his residence to the time that he ended up in the parking lot shooting himself, it was horrific to hear that there are 2 children in that vehicle that are experiencing what unfortunately they will carry for the rest of their lives. And how do we stop that? I can't stop those 2 incidents from happening, but we can work on the future. And so with all your help, I think we'll be able to do that. So that's a huge goal of all of ours here, and I really look forward to not having to respond to too many domestic violence calls in the future. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Have any comments, questions, concerns?
No, I'm overwhelmed, actually. I've been there with the sheriff, I've been there with those folks, and we don't know how fortunate we have it. We oftentimes take things for granted, I think, and to hear these tragic stories, it's heartbreaking, but I think we need to hear them.
It is overwhelming, and there's a lot to be said for repressed memory. But when you were speaking, Sarah, a lot of stuff came back. And in 35 years as a law enforcement officer, I've hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of DV calls, from yelling, damaging property, pushing, shoving, weapons, up to a murder-suicide in front of a 4-year-old daughter. And I had to interview the 4-year-old to get the search warrant for the house. And she is probably about 30, either side of 30 years old now, and I wonder how she's doing. I'm allergic to stuff in here. That fern. So I wonder how she's doing, but it's generational. It's a learned, one of you said it's a learned behavior, and dagnabbit, it's going to take a generation to stop it, but we have to do everything we can bit by bit. And traveling in my travels across the country, I've seen adequate DV response. I've seen some embarrassing, shameful, cruel DV responses in other parts of the country, back east in the southeast. Sorry. And but when I came to Olympia, I saw how we evolved. I came from another agency when I came to Olympia in 1985, and we were doing adequate work where I came from, but here was already, in 85, was exceptional. And it's just gotten better and better and better with Olympia Police. And especially, working with the Monarch Center and all the other systems that are out there. I'm exceedingly proud to be a Thurston County resident in what we're doing, but there's so much more work to be done, and it'll be never ending. So thank you all very much for all the work that you do in this arena. I'm done.
I don't even know where to start. But with you, every single one of you out there on the front line of making a difference in someone's life individually or collectively, it just really makes my heart just throb over and over and over again, because it hurts my heart to know that even one single woman is in jeopardy at any given time in this county. It really does hurt my heart. So just keep up the good work. We have your back. We'll put it at the front of anything we can, budget-wise, policy-wise. If it has to help that way, we'll do it. We'll get out there with you if we can. These two guys have. I haven't in my past career. But the role of women and the value of women in this county is exceedingly important to us. And we just say, if there ain't no woman, there ain't no world. You're just not going to get anywhere. I'm just telling you. It's just what makes it happen. So thank you very, very much for what you do. And I'll kind of stop right there so we don't get too crazy about it. So with that in mind, let's read a proclamation.
Can we just give it to him so I don't have to read it? Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas over the last 2 decades, crime victims and their advocates have made progress towards improving criminal justice systems by supporting millions of survivors of domestic violence and their families who deserve justice. And whereas victim advocates for the Thurston County Prosecutor's Office provided advocacy services to over 1,050 victims of domestic violence. And whereas Thurston County Board of Commissioners supports the efforts to promote the safety of victims and others through an increased focus on county-wide cooperative strategies and public awareness campaigns. And whereas the month of October has been nationally designated Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Thurston County Commissioners hereby proclaims October as Thurston County Domestic Violence Awareness Month, encourages all county residents to learn more about the crime of domestic violence, the dynamics involved, and the growing impact on citizens in Thurston County, and to support our local victim assistance agencies and criminal justice programs that work to serve domestic violence victims, survivors, and their children. Date of this 9th day of October 2018.
One thing, I am going to say it. 17 October at 5:30, come to the Yacht Club, every single male in this Thurston County, to do the 100 Men Who Care event. It is a statement that we're trying to make here in this room throughout the entire county. It's our 4th year, so theoretically that's 400 men. If it takes 1,000 years to get to every single man in this county to say no more, that's exactly what this is about. So please join me, the prosecuting attorney, and the sheriff, and a whole host of other men to say stop it, no more. That's 17 October at the Yacht Club at 5:30, 100 Men Who Care. Great.
Thank you.
Everybody come up and get a picture. Come on up. Thank you, Jennifer. You're my hero.
Oh, thank you.
You want to hold?
Marshall didn't speak.
You hit it in the middle.
Why don't we have Christy do that?
Let me put Marshall in the middle.
Yeah, Marsh, of course.
And so Carla, Shelley, don't get out of it. Come on, Shelley. We know you're part of that. Who else?
How come there's other coppers in uniform?
Yeah.
They got to get up here,
Hey,
too.
hey.
Can I get down there again?
Purcell.
Oh, good. I
Chief
always
Purcell. There you go.
Don't step. Don't trip
We'll
on
get
my
it all
foot.
in here. It's not a
Just
problem.
make a little more room since the entire room's up here now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's nobody to watch.
Hey, Ben,
Nobody watching.
Ben, you nailed that chair?
Oh, buddy.
Come on in here.
Yeah,
we got the big camera. So
Hey,
it's not a
Judy,
problem.
you're part of this solution, too, you know. You work on this stuff.
Judy. It's Jody.
I mean Jody, I'm
Come on,
sorry.
Jody.
Jody.
I wasn't scary. Stop it. Yeah, Marshall.
I'm looking. Oh, that was him?
There you go. Yay.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Wait till 3:30. I'm going to cry.
We all do.
You're like a good
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Marshall? See, man. How you doing there, Mr. Ben?
Thank you. Thank you very
My
much.
God.
I felt good.
Did Jody get out of here?
In a bad way, you know, Judy. You know what I mean?
You're going to have to go see her now. We have one more proclamation.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do. on the back.
No, I don't have anything to read, though.
All righty, we're going to drive on. We have the Katie Gerrard, who's Director of the Human Resources here for Thurston County. She's going to give a quarterly cause for applause drawing. You have a drawing?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you remember, this summer we...
Art. So give us a little bit of background and then walk us through the drawing.
So this summer we introduced a new recognition program across the county called Cause for Applause. It's a series of note cards that anyone can give to anyone else to recognize the great work of the employees of Thurston County. And I can't express enough what we just heard. Every one of those people deserves a Cause for Applause award. And so what we do is we provide the cards to the different offices and departments. Individuals can give those to their coworkers. They have the opportunity to submit their name into the Human Resources Office for a quarterly drawing. And so today is our very first drawing of this new program. So each one of you will get to draw one name, and those individuals will be rewarded with a choice of gifts. We've done a couple different things. We've done some Regal Cinemas gift cards, the Olympia Coffee Company, Phoebe's Cafe, and then a variety of dining cards where people can choose the restaurant of their choice to enjoy a meal on the county.
Wow.
And so we will be doing this once a quarter, so we'll be back in January. But for the first drawing, we received 49 submissions. So that's 49 different people that were recognized for great work that they've done in the last quarter. We hope to double that next year. So this little shout out to everybody to use those cards and recognize the great work that we're doing here at Thurston County. And with that, I'm going to have each one of you draw a name from this basket.
I don't draw very well.
Oh, yeah, we don't draw very well.
I don't draw very well at all.
I think that's up to the chair to do that.
He wants one from each one of us, right? Yeah, you get to do it too.
Oh, we all get to get
You didn't
one?
hear her instructions?
Just one, though. Just one.
Don't be looking. Yeah, don't be looking.
Yeah.
And they get a dozen chocolate dip radishes or something?
They get to choose their gifts.
Wow, I got this person. Wow.
Is that one?
Yeah, just one.
There you go.
I said
The
you want us
one?
to announce?
Oh,
Or?
it is.
Each read the name.
Okay, you go first, Gary.
Holy mackerel.
No, not him. Holy mackerel is not the person.
Mark Hartley, Central Services.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
And what does Mark get?
He'll get a choice of these gifts that I just read off. So
Okay,
the different gift cards that will be available for them to select from.
Okay.
Yep.
My turn?
Yep.
Oh, no, I'm going to make the vice go next. How about
Okay.
Nicole Sandberg, Human Resources.
Nicole, yeah. And now we're back to Central Services, and I have number 1, Dan Murray.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We will coordinate with those winners to get their recognition gift, and we'll be back in January with the next drawing.
Hey, thank you so much. Turn your
Thank
ticket
you.
in, man.
I'll turn it. I'm validating it. Thank you. What?
Yeah,
Well, I'm going to
probably.
go to dinner with them.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the opportunity for the public to address the board. The rules are as follows. There's a sign-in sheet here and in the back, and those who sign in, it's a first come, first serve. I'll come to the podium, say your first name, last name, and generally where you're at in the county. There'll be 3 minutes up here on your right, my left. It starts off at 3 minutes and counts down to 0. When it gets to 0, you hear the sound of a buzzard sound. That's the sound where you stop. But if you're in mid-sentence, mid-thought, I'm going to encourage you to stop, but continue on so we get your thoughts because we want to hear everything you have to say. And so there is, like I said, limited to 3 minutes. You cannot donate your time. And if you have a cell phone, turn that off while someone's speaking or silence it, please. No lewd or offensive comments and no commercialization of any private organization out there. And if there's an appeal for, say, a land use issue, if you start into that, I'm going to stop you, ask you to wait and hold until we get to where we have an appeal session later on. If that's even scheduled, I'll let you know where that is. And then Ramiro has a comment.
Yeah, and also within your comments, no electioneering, please.
So with that in mind, we have one person who signed in here. Her name is Mary Hatz Spokane. Hello, Mary. Come on up here. You know the deal. What do you got today?
As you see, I am again dressed as Mother Goddess Liberty. To unite this nation, because we're very torn.
Keep going, keep
and
going.
What we talked about today was part of that. For hundreds, thousands of years, women have been second-class citizens. They've been the most prejudiced of anyone in the species. Forget the colors. Women. Why is that? Women birth the child. they have a natural protection for the child. Kings, dictators, popiolas, they want those children to conquer for war. This is the two big reasons we have domestic violence.
So Mary, talk this way.
Loss of respect for women and the continuation of war. I am here to support our president, who will bring an end to war on this planet. He is in the midst of a grand project to bring down those at the top that are evil, that are making money on war, making money keeping us in poverty with their greed. Please consider learning about the Great Awakening, the Q movement. We are now 50 million strong worldwide. This is the great Second American Revolution. We are meant to be a light to the world. We will do this for our country, and it will inspire all countries to return to what we pledge today, to be a republic. What is a republic? That is absolute respect for the individual as well as the collective. The Occupy movement was very close to a republic. They had a circle, everybody had time to speak, and every decision was made with lots of amendments by the collective with respect for everyone in that circle. That's a republic. We've never really had it yet. That was the vision of our founding fathers. And now we have a second chance. And when we end war, and we're going to end war, domestic violence will go away. When you take human life, you lose your respect for yourself. And you can't live with yourself. And you take that anger out on the people you love the most, your children and your wives. When we end war, we will end that scourge. And why do we have it in this county? Because we have Fort Lewis in this, people living in this county. Let's connect the dots. Let's stop war.
Thank you, Mary.
Cue the plan to save the world. Just go look. See if you want to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you for your words. Okay, so is there anybody by show of hands that would like to come to the podium to address the board? You would like to, sir? Come on, yeah. Mm-hmm. So can I get your first name, last name, and generally where you're in the county?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity for saying something here. And I'm rather stunned by all the profound things that took place here this afternoon. I didn't hear too much about nutrition. I think that's very important. And I didn't hear much about ecology, and we're hitting our head against a stone wall as far as ecology is concerned. But I came up here just to talk about one thing, very simple, and I need some information. I should know this, but the years pass by and laws seem to change a little bit, and that is, what are the laws for dog leashing? What are the laws for when you're walking on trails and all of a sudden you see a dog and it comes up, some of them are pretty big and they come up to you and sometimes they kind of scare you. And then even when a dog is on a leash, sometimes that's even more difficult because they are not really, they're most large dogs are designed to protect their owner. And so we're in a quandary here. So if they're on a leash, then they become very very ferocious sometimes. And my concern is, do we have these laws here? And thank you. That's why I came today.
Can I ask you a favor, sir? Your first and last name?
Hollweger, Hollweger.
Okay. And where are you from generally?
3139 South Bay Road.
Okay. Thank you so much for your words today, sir. All righty. See that in, that's item number 1. So we'll move on to item number 2, which is the county manager's update. And I'll turn to Romero Chavez, the county manager, to see if he has any information to share with us.
Thank you, commissioners. Yes, I'd like to, for the public's perspective, over the last few months, the Board of County Commissioners, along with the representatives from the City of Olympia, and some of the key stakeholders here in the county, elected officials and department directors, have embarked in looking at options as to where a potential new courthouse and civic center may be placed. So over the last few months, the group considered close to 12 different locations. And as a result of that process, the group narrowed down to 3 potential locations as to where this potential courthouse civic center could be located. The first location is the current site, and it will be assessed in terms of remodel reconstruction. The second site for consideration is the Plum Street. That is the old City of Olympia site.
City Hall.
City Hall, thank you. And the third is what we call the Harrison West site, which is located on Harrison Avenue Northwest and Kaiser Road on the west side of Olympia. So the next step in the process the group took, and the Board of County Commissioners agreed to hire the services of Thomas Architecture Studios, where the task of this particular outfit is to go through a feasibility study to determine which of the best sites will be the best possible location before you have the opportunity to select what location you would like to move forward. Eventually, no matter where that is, this will require the vote of the public. And at this point, on a tentative schedule, we have that on 2019, but that will be a decision the commissioners will have to make, whether that is something that you would like to entertain or not. So through this process of feasibility study, we would like to hear from the public as to what the public would like to see, would like to hear their perspective, and also provide some feedback as to how this particular new courthouse civic center could be located. So we have scheduled several opportunities for the public to come and have a conversation with our consultants, well, with their staff. The first one is going to be on October 15 from 10:30 to 12 noon, and it will be held at the Yale Community Center at 301 2nd Street, Southeast Yale. Also on October 15 at 6 p.m., it will be another opportunity on the Tenino High School, located in 500 West 2nd Avenue in Tenino. On October 16, we will have 5 sessions, which is going to be located on the Olympia Center at 222 Columbia Street Northwest Olympia. In those sessions is to give the public as ample opportunity to come. So the first session will be at 9 in the morning. The second will be at 10:30 in the morning. The third will be at 1:30 in the afternoon. The fourth will be at 3 in the afternoon. And the last one will be at 6 p.m. In the afternoon. Also, we have a schedule on November 6th, 5 sessions. Again, this will be located at the Lacey Community Center at 6729 Pacific Avenue Southwest in Olympia. And again, the sessions will be at 9 in the morning, 10:30 in the morning, 1:30 in the afternoon, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, 4:30 in the afternoon, and again at 6 p.m. Also on November 7th, we will have an open house in Rainier. We're still working on the location and the time for that particular open house. And also November 7th at 6 p.m., we'll be having an open house at Rochester High School Commons, located at 19800 Carpenter Road, Southwest Rochester. For those citizens who wouldn't have the opportunity to attend any of the open houses, we'll be filming sessions in October as well as in November, and that will be uploaded on the website, where the citizens can go to the thurstoncounty.gov and click on the Courthouse Civic Center page, and that will give you all the information related to this project, as well as the locations of the open houses, and as well as the videotapes of the 2 open houses that will be uploaded when those are completed. That's all I have for you.
All righty.
May I speak to
Sure,
that?
sure, you may.
I don't know if you have the answer to this. I'm going to guess it's yes. Is there a way for TCM for the subsequent viewing of this program or this BoCC meeting to have those dates and times, locations posted on rolling or something, or have it advertised?
Yeah, we can certainly work with our PIO to get that going.
Yeah, he's not here.
Yeah.
He's not here. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? No? Okay. So we'll move on to consent items. We have one consent item, so I'll ask if there's a motion to approve consent item A, which is the auditor's financial services.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve consent item A.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve consent item A. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, and that motion carries. Now we'll move into office and department items. The first office item we have is from the Sheriff's Office. It's a contract for a part-time school resource officer in the Rainier School District. We have the Undersheriff, Mr. Tim Braniff, to give us a little bit of background and just some information concerning this one. And the other one is the Rochester School District, so you might want to do 2 at one time.
I'll do that. Thank you, Commissioner. For the record, I'm Tim Braniff, Thurston County Undersheriff. But before I get started in the explanation of this, I'd like to invite Sheriff John Snoz up, because he's got something that he's wearing today on his feet that I think you should all be aware of, but also part of his initiative for the office to take hold this October, and he's got a presentation to make.
Thank you, Tim. I just want to announce that the Sheriff's Office, through the October, we're having patches and we're wearing them on the left shoulder. The only reason I don't have it is because it was mistakenly sewn on the right shoulder. And the reason why we have this patch on our left shoulder is so that as we're driving our vehicles, citizens can see our support for cancer research and actually ending cancer. As you, all of us in this room and whoever watches this knows that we've all been affected by cancer. And what is our goal? And hopefully our goal is to raise enough money to eliminate cancer and never even have to worry about it again. And so for the month of October, the Sheriff's Office, which I do notice that the commissioners are wearing pink as well, but we're all trying to wear pink somewhere on our bodies. Some we will not disclose, but others we have t-shirts.
Wow.
T-shirts, and we're wearing patches with our uniforms, and even with our cool socks.
Oh, look at that.
I can't get these things off, so they'll be stuck on me for a couple of days, so I apologize for that. But what I do want to say is that the Sheriff's Office wants to say that we do not like cancer, and we want to cure it. And how do we bring awareness to what we're trying to do is by wearing pink in the month of October. So I just want to say thank you to all of you who are wearing pink as well, just to show how it's affected us and what we're trying to do to combat it. So thank you so much for allowing me that opportunity.
Undersheriff, when you were holding that up, the camera wasn't on you, so nobody at home sees the shirt. So I'm waiting to get the camera moved onto you.
So as you can see, Chief Pearsall in the back has his pink T-shirt on along with his pink patch.
Yeah, he's standing in the corner.
Perhaps you need to turn or something to a camera. It's not showing. There we go. Yeah,
go left
good.
face, left.
Huh?
Go left.
There you go, right there. Now, are those for sale?
No. These will be, I believe they're being worn just by the officers themselves underneath their,
All right.
because of the badge on the front. So.
Oh, got it.
And there were no public funds to use this. This is all supported by the staff within the office. And then all the money raised will go to local cancer research from a couple of people that support the Sheriff's Office as well.
Beautiful.
So it's a great initiative and great program. And thanks to the Sheriff for allowing us to take that venture on and move forward in
Thank you,
curing
Sheriff.
cancer. So the two contracts that we have for school resource officer are with the Rochester School District along with the Rainier School District. Again, they're partnerships that we have with those schools. We're asking for the support to sign the contract. This will be our second year rolling into the contract for the 18-19 school year for both the schools. We supply basically a half a day of a deputy within those schools themselves to help support, deter, act as that point of security for not only the administrators, the school staff, but also the students themselves. The deputies are in patrol in their assigned schools surrounding the areas in order to investigate, enforce, deter, and prevent, especially those incidents involving weapons, youth violence, harassment, gang involvement, drugs, and any other thing, bullying or anything like that. And that's basically putting a face in the schools so there's an additional resource, which is in the word or the title itself. But it's being able to utilize our staff, connect with the community, have a resource for families, for parents, for the students themselves, as well as the staff to be able to reach out to our office and that connectivity. And then if there are additional resources that are needed by Chief Pearsall and Chief Watkins, who operate, they can respond appropriately to that and those requests itself. So the one for the Rochester School District is being funded by Rochester School District for $60,000 to help support during the school year. And the one for Rainier, it's a partnership not only with the school district but also the city, and that's for $40,000, which divided up the time on overtime. That does not affect the road deputy and their time. It's all on overtime for those two. It's unlike the one with the North Thurston School District, which is funding a full-time to have in the schools itself. And we're asking for approval for this contract for 2018-2019 school year.
All righty, questions or comments?
Good program. Looking forward to having you get it in the schools. Thank you very much for doing it.
Ditto. We routinely meet with the superintendents in the county, all school superintendents, and we met last week or the week before, and both Brian Barr from Rainier and Kim Fry from Rochester spoke exceedingly highly of the program of SROs and how really they are grateful and greatly appreciative of having officers in the school, saving staff time, resolving conflict with the kids, rapport building. I mean, they just went on. It was wonderful, and I've always supported that as well. It's very meaningful.
And it's two key points. It's one, it's the right fit and having the right deputy in there to be able to have that relationship and build that bond. But also at the same time, it's having those kids having those deputies in the school, because if something does go sideways, then we're able to respond immediately.
And I agree with that point. And so I asked them specifically about the personality in the officers, and they love the deputies. Mm-hmm. Their personality, they said they're just a great fit.
And they're a part of picking those people, or those deputies as well. So we allow that, so that they have that interaction and that connectivity.
That's very good.
And then without an additional plug, I will ask that it is on overtime, but I look forward to future years where you can be able to support that as part of our regular line staff, and so that we're integrated in those schools appropriately, so it's a full-time, not just a part-time. Sure. Thank you.
In due time, that's a great discussion to have. You know how I feel about it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I've been trying to support it for 4 years. I'm super glad where we're at this point. Sure. So, is there a motion for both?
Yep. I'm going to do one each. Move to approve the contract with the City of Rainier for $40,000 for the Sheriff's Office to provide a part-time school resource officer in the Rainier School District during the 2018-2019 school year, and authorize the sheriff or his designee to sign the contract.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. And then there's 4B.
And I move to approve the contract with the Rochester School District for $60,000 for the Sheriff's Office to provide a part-time school resource officer in the Rochester School District during the 2018-2019 school year, and authorize the sheriff or his designee to sign the contract.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded as stated. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you so much, Sheriff and Chief. So I'm going to move on to number 5 on our agenda here. From Public Works, we have Monica Gorman, who's the solid waste manager there, and she has a request for approval of amendment number 2 to the waste export and disposal agreement between Thurston County and Regional Disposal Company. Hello, Monica. Can you do me a favor and pull the mic down? Just- Yeah, there
Thank you.
go.
Good afternoon.
You bet.
Good afternoon.
For the record, I'm Monica Gorman, the County Solid Waste Manager. This item is a request to approve an amendment to extend the waste export and disposal agreement between Thurston County and the Regional Disposal Company, which is owned by Republic Services. This amendment will extend the expiration date of the contract from October 2018 to April 2020. And by way of background, the county has 2 large solid waste contracts that support our solid waste facilities. And the first is for operation of the county's transfer station, and the second is for transportation of trash from the transfer station to a landfill for disposal. Now, these 2 contracts work in tandem, but they have different expiration dates. And so the purpose of this amendment is to align those expiration dates so that the transportation and disposal contract aligns with the transfer station operations contract. Aligning those 2 expiration dates will ensure continuity of operations at the county's Waste and Recovery Center in Lacey. In addition, this extension will also give the county time to determine and implement a procurement process for solid waste services beyond 2020. The costs associated with this extension will be paid by the Solid Waste Fund and are included in the current budget.
Any questions of Monica?
And this has all been run by legal. Everything we're doing is on the up and up, and it'll just align these so that they'll run out at the same time. So when we're negotiating new contracts, we're kind of doing it all together. Is that it?
That's exactly correct. And I do have a prosecuting attorney's signature on the contract.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's a great idea too, I think, to align it like that. So no further comment.
No, I'm good here.
Thank you, Monica.
You bet. Is there a motion?
I move to approve amendment number 2 to the waste export and disposal agreement between Thurston County and Regional Disposal Company, extending the term of the agreement to April 30th, 2020, and authorize the county manager to execute the amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded as stated. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, and your motion carries. Thank you so much, Monica. So the 6th item we have is from Central Services. Is Martin Casey, who's the Director of Central Services, is going to tell us a little bit about a resolution declaring an emergency and recognizing the need to immediately evaluate, repair, and replace electrical system here at the courthouse. Martin, what's going on?
Well, the commissioners and many members of the public will remember that last week, Wednesday morning, we arrived to the courthouse to discover that we had a serious issue with our electrical system, our power systems. Overnight, a main primary power line, one of 3 that bring power in from the Puget Sound Energy into the courthouse, this right here, this 1-inch thick cable, had failed overnight. And it failed by actually burning through and...
Show him.
Show the props.
There you go. It failed by burning through and breaking through its own insulation housing. This is part of the original electrical infrastructure supporting the courthouse that dates back nearly 40 years now. This particular part of the power system is underground, it's buried. Fortunately, it was near a vault where we could get access to it and conduct an emergency repair to pull the cable through, splice it, and put a temporary fix in place. The purpose of this item on your agenda is to essentially authorize an emergency declaration to allow us to waive certain requirements under state public works laws to effect that repair immediately, waive the competitive solicitation requirements, and then the next step going forward is, now that we have the temporary repair in place, we need to conduct a thorough evaluation of the remainder of that line, as well as the other 2 lines that come in concurrently into that same vault, and make sure that we don't have a larger problem or a recurrence of this problem. So our hope is to be able to conduct that evaluation quickly and define a scope of work for what additional repair and or replacement, if any, will be needed. Happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions, comments?
So that line is about, 8 feet deep in the ground and 200 yards long, maybe?
So, not sure exactly of the distance. You're right, it is about 8 feet. The vault is about 8 feet deep. that it comes into. It actually travels from across the street. There's a station from the Puget Sound Energy just across the street on Deschutes Way, and it travels that full distance to get to that point. From there, it travels down within the courthouse plaza, all 3 lines, and then there's our primary electrical infrastructure is in the base of Building 3, and from there, they all branch out across the 3 main buildings here.
And then that line is over 40 years old as well.
It's about 40 years old, yep.
And would you anticipate if we've had one blowout that we might have more?
I think it's a reasonable risk assumption, and that's part of what we want to make sure and check.
And when that shuts down like that, and we close the courthouse, do you have any idea how much money that actually costs the taxpayers in lost productivity or, I mean, inconvenience to the public? There's so many things maybe that you can't quantify, but it's substantial.
So the disruption, part of the reason that this was essential to repair so quickly is it both caused disruption to county services, but it also could present a life safety risk or pose a hazard if it's not dealt with appropriately. In terms of the disruption to county services, each office and department maintains business continuity plans to try to maintain essential services even in the case of a power disruption or other disaster. In this instance, we initially were still running on the 2 functioning power lines when we arrived to work on Wednesday morning. There was partial power to the courthouse, and it was not until Puget Sound Energy got on site and began assisting with identifying the location of the issue that it became apparent that in order to actually correct it, we were going to have to shut down power to all functions. So that put the courthouse on its emergency generators, which are designed to support emergency lighting and security systems and keep basic functions like that going, but aren't set up to provide full services. So some offices, for example, I know the auditor's office at their licensing recording desk continued providing some limited public services. Other offices had to shut down, and some court functions and other activities were unfortunately disrupted by the power loss.
Thank you.
This negatively impacted the entire government function because the Superior Court, they had to declare a mistrial.
That's correct.
And send everybody home. But the other essential functions continued as best they could.
Exactly.
I think it's important to add that this was such a major, of such magnitude rather, that it was beyond PSE's capabilities to come in and jump in and fix it.
Well, and actually, what Puget Sound Energy is responsible for is issues in the power up to the point where it goes, just like with your private residence, they're responsible for the power up to the street or to your, main entry there point. But from there on in, it's the property owner's responsibility. So once Puget Sound Energy determined that this was not a failure in their infrastructure, but was actually in the county's infrastructure, what we're responsible for maintaining and operating, they actually were very cooperative and remained on site with us as we began troubleshooting what was going on in our infrastructure and facilitated the repairs by actually working with us in identifying and then bringing on site the service provider, a company called Patelco, who was able to come on site and assist and complete that repair. Puget Sound Energy actually authorized them to stop work on another project they were working on for them in order to come here as quickly as possible and get the courthouse back up and running as soon as possible.
So PSE did have the capability of fixing it, but because it's on our property, they couldn't?
They might have, they might have the tools or capabilities, but it's our responsibility once it
so they go to the
transits that
contractor and
point.
hook us up. Okay, now I get it. Thank
Exactly.
you. Thank you. But it's still big magnitude.
You know, I guess I'd just mention one other thing before the county manager says something. Our infrastructure is, about, like you say, over 40 years old, power blowing out. It kind of goes right along with these windows that we have that are, single pane. We don't even have thermal pane windows here. So I like to let the public know that we're trying to do the best we can. With a building that's probably outdated a bit, and they'll probably hear more about this as time goes on, And hopefully, we won't lose power very often because it's a very expensive endeavor for the community. So.
May I add something again? Remember the King Dome and the ceiling tiles falling out? When I arrived at work this morning about 7:30, there was a dadgum ceiling tile out in the hallway on the floor. You probably heard about that or know about it. I don't know. I would imagine. And I thought, good grief, it's falling in on ourselves. Vortex.
Yeah, I think all of us can attest the condition of this building. But going back to last week, where most of the offices and departments were interrupted, the Board of County Commissioners and the Commissioner's Office continue on business as usual. We had an emergency lighting here. I think it was just that lighting. And you pushed through through some of the budget presentations and deliberations the entire day. At the end of the day, I think all of us were tired with our eyes just looking at the small print and as well as dim lights, but we just pushed through it.
All righty. Is there a motion?
Yes. I move to approve the resolution declaring an emergency and recognizing the need to immediately evaluate, repair, and/or replace electrical system infrastructure serving the Thurston County Courthouse, buildings 1, 2, and 3, and further move to authorize the Director of Central Services to immediately enter into a contract with the necessary vendors.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded as stated. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, and that motion carries.
Is it done yet?
We will keep you.
Immediately.
We will keep you well informed, sir. Thank you.
So if it's okay with the board members, I'll skip 7A and go straight to 7B for time's sake. And that way we can stay on track with the rest of the program. Is that right?
It's okay.
Yes.
7B.
Yeah, let me walk you through quickly your upcoming schedule for the upcoming week. And this is, again, only the appointments that at least 2 commissioners will be present. Here in a minute, you will have the regular Board of Health. At 5:30, you will have a public hearing where you receive public testimony on proposed rate increases for the Grand Mountain, Boston Harbor, Thomaston, Beverly Hills, Beverly Beach, and Olympic View Water and Sewer Utilities. Wednesday, October 10th at 11:30 in the afternoon, you have the Chambers Lunch located on the Hotel RL. At 2 in the afternoon, you have a briefing on the Main Street Rochester project. At 2:30 in the afternoon tomorrow, you have a briefing on the Deputy Health Officer proposal. And at 4 in the afternoon, you have an invitation to participate on the ribbon cutting ceremony of the South Sound Parent-to-Parent Grand Opening, which the new facility is located in 2108 Canton Way Southwest, which is located here at the Auto Mall location. Thursday, October 11th, you have a briefing at 10 in the afternoon where you relate to the Thurston Conservation District rates and charges. Friday, October 12th, 9 in the morning, the Commissioner Hutchins and Commissioner Blake will have the regular Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization Board meeting. Monday, October 15th, you will continue on with your budget work sessions, and this related to the general fund, begin at 9 o'clock, and then you end at 11:45, and you will come back at 1:15 to continue with the budget work sessions. And at 3 in the afternoon, you have your regular Thurston Tribes Coordinating Council.
Any comments or questions?
No, I'm good.
Very good.
Nope.
All righty, with that in mind, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the BoCC meeting of October 9th, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes, and we are adjourned.